Good afternoon, folks. This is Robert Chappell, Executive Editor, Madison365, with your daily update for Tuesday, February 16th. The coronavirus news that has been so good for so long had a little snag today. I'm not terribly concerned. I don't think this is the beginning of the end or anything like that. Just the numbers are not looking as good as they have in the past few weeks. Okay, it's not terrible. It's not bad, but anytime you see fewer tests and more cases than the day before, you kind of go, ugh. So that's where we are today. We also have lots of local news to get to. It was one of those weird days. It feels like a slow news day, and then I go to put together the pictures, for the local news section of the show, and it's like, wow, there's a whole bunch. we did a lot of news today. So we'll get to that in a bit. But first, let's talk about the coronavirus situation. Which, again, as I mentioned, fewer tests today than yesterday. Only 3,218 new test results today are being reported. Again, these are tests that have been run over the past couple of days, but just reported today. And of those, 624 are positive. So almost 20% were positive out of those reported today. Yesterday, it was only 10, right? So not great. But even with that, 624 new cases is still lower than we've seen in recent weeks, so that's still okay. Only 405 yesterday, so it's like more than yesterday, but still on the lower side than what we've seen in the past several weeks. So again, not panicking. But the 7-day average of new cases is now 782, which that's the lowest that's been for a while. Now, the other piece of bad news today is 38 fatalities, of which 26 were in Milwaukee County. So this might be kind of a little bit of catch up in Milwaukee County. I hope that's all it is. I hope we just didn't have a sudden rash of fatalities in Milwaukee. I would expect that when you have almost all of one day's death toll in one county, that's a catch up of data more than just a sudden rash of fatalities. But what that does, even though, yesterday we only had 4 fatalities. On Sunday we had 1, but we had 39 a week ago today. So when we have 38 today, that means our 7-day average actually drops. Our 7-day average of fatalities is now 15, which that's the lowest that's been since we've been reporting it. Okay, so that's decent news. 38 deaths, not good news. The average falling to 15, not terrible news. Maybe the best news today is that the positive test rate for the 7 days held at 3.1. So even though for today's test reporting looks worse on paper than it did yesterday, the 7-day positive test rate didn't change. Okay, I would like to see it continue to go down. We want to get it below 3%. But the fact that we had kind of a bad day, but that still didn't go up, I'll take it. Okay. So that is decent news on the coronavirus front. We are now at, by the way, about 10,300 active cases. That's about 1.85% of the total cases. That's a number that we kind of keep an eye on. We haven't been focusing on it so much lately. But I think that's an important number because those are the people who are currently actively contagious, right? And who would have been contagious for a couple of days before they got diagnosed, right? Now that number at one point was like 75,000 and was like 22% of all cases were currently active back at the peak of things back in November. So today, for that to be at 10,000 and only 1.8% of all cases, that's another indication that we're really headed in the right direction. Now, I will also say we are headed in the right direction because of all the things we're doing right. All the wearing of masks, all the continuing to keep our distance, schools being modified. A lot of school districts are open and doing okay. A lot of school districts are doing sort of hybrid models where they're in for there's half the kids in for 2 days, half the kids in for different 2 days. That's what is happening out here in Mount Horeb. But all of that is the cause of these good numbers, and this virus actually getting under control. So I don't think we want to ease up at this moment, right? It does feel we can relax a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about some sports stuff that's going to be happening soon, which is exciting. We can be slightly more open to gatherings and stuff like that, but because we know that there's not like we're not in that situation anymore where you have to assume everybody you encounter is infected, which was kind of the case in the fall, right? That said, we can't just completely let our guard down because that's what we did last June. A lot of these numbers look very similar to they did in June 2020. The positive test rate was right around 3 back then. We had far fewer active cases. It was like 4,000 active cases in June. But a lot of these other numbers looked similar to right now, and we know what happened after that. Once we let our guard down and started having too much fun, things went right up, starting in July. Okay, so keep doing what you're doing. We're doing good. We are going to get this. Now, we are going to get this because we have 9,000 more people, almost 10,000 more people today. No, I'm sorry, just over 9,000 more people today finished their vaccine. So a week or two from now, those 9,000 people will be fully immune. What they're telling us is if you are fully immune, if you haven't had both shots and you wait your week or two to build up your immunity, you can probably go out more, but still probably mask up because it's not super clear whether or not you can still transmit virus if you've been inoculated. So keep masking, everybody, just for now, until we can get this thing completely eradicated. But that's good news that we're having more and more people every day finishing the vaccine. We have 726,000 people have gotten at least one dose, which means about 500,000 people, a little more than 500,000 people, have gotten one dose and are waiting for the second. We also know that these are being distributed in a way that is not racially equitable, which is it's a little bit unfair to go too hard at them right now for that because there's been a relatively small number of people have gotten the vaccine, so there's a little limited data set, but about 4% of the white population is vaccinated and only like 1.5% of the black population is vaccinated. So there's a disparity, and that's a problem. And I think it's being addressed, and they're trying to address it, but it's got to be really, really intentional. Okay, you have to win trust. You have to communicate well. You have to get access, and that's not easy for everybody to have access and to make it to appointments. So. This is a good point Abigail has. Unfortunately, this is true that people the first priority has been anybody over 65, and then certain classes of like people with certain kind of jobs, like healthcare jobs, and then next up it's going to be teachers. But she makes a good point. Abigail makes a good point here that people under 65 who have other issues that would cause them to be more vulnerable, like cerebral palsy, for example. And thank you for sharing that, Abigail. Appreciate it. Are even though they're of an age where you wouldn't think they'd be vulnerable, their other health conditions do make them vulnerable. So you could make a case that people like Abigail should be getting vaccinated. But unfortunately, that has not been part of the calculation yet. I think part of it is, you could say people over 65 and people with other health conditions, but how do you manage that? You know what I mean? Could I go in there and claim to be diabetic in order to get a vaccine? I'm not saying this is right. I think Abigail, you should obviously be able to get a vaccine. But I think this is part of the calculation that they're not sure exactly how to manage that. would a doctor vouch for you? Is that how it would work? Would you be able to get a note from a physician saying this person is vulnerable and please vaccinate her? Again, I think our state is smart enough to figure this out. I don't have the answer, but I think that's part of the calculation. And that's part of the issue. Age is just age. Easy. You're 65, you get it. If you're not, you gotta wait. Right? That's just so simple. And when you start adding complexities, then it becomes just harder to do. And I think that's part of the problem. And it's just that we just don't have a lot of supply yet. Like, it's hard. It's difficult, and it's not a good answer. I'm sorry I don't have a good answer for you, but I think that is a lot of it. Okay, so that is the coronavirus news as far as I know it today. I will take a short break, and we'll be back in about 30 seconds with some more local news. So stay with us. Don't scroll away. All of those jobs that you just listed are available right now, and they're on Madison365.org/jobs. There's usually new listings every day. And one of the reasons that the companies advertise with us specifically is because we reach an audience of people of color. So all of those employers are advertising with us and paying us to post their job listings specifically because they're looking for people of color. So if you want to work at a place that values diversity, that genuinely actually really tries hard to recruit a diverse talent pool, check out those jobs. Madison365.org/jobs. New listings there every day. So today in the local news and state news here, we have sad news today. David Villa, who was on our very first ever list of the most powerful Latino leaders back in 2016, I guess, has died. He was 66 years old. He was, you probably have never heard of him, frankly, unless you're really embedded in the Latino community in Madison. He was not, well, even local famous, the way some people get. But he's one of the most influential people in the state of Wisconsin, not only Latinos, but people. He was the chief executive and chief investment officer at the state of Wisconsin Investment Board. So if you worked for the state, worked for a county or a city or a school district, David was the man in charge of your retirement account. He had almost $100 billion that he was managing, and he came in 2006, steered that agency through the financial crisis, really revolutionized the way it did business in ways that I don't understand because I'm not a financial person. But a whole bunch of people last night, when he passed away on Saturday, and we learned this last night, and I talked to some folks from Madison who I trust and understand these things, and they said that he really, really revolutionized the way the state of Wisconsin handled its retirement accounts. So big loss for the state of Wisconsin, big loss for Madison's Latino community. And I've got that sort of remembrance of him on the site today at Madison365.org. Also today we have 12 Rounds with Ajamu Butler. It's our new feature where we have local leaders answering a series of 12 questions, some of them kind of fun, some of them serious. Ajamu Butler is the CEO and founder of Heal the Hood in Milwaukee. One of the coolest cats you'll ever meet. Just a really, really nice guy. Really cool guy, really fun. He's been a regular panelist at our summit. And got some good questions to him about, what would you say to somebody who's thinking of moving to Wisconsin, who's black or brown? What would you, and why do you have such cool hats? He's known for his hat game. It's a very fun interview. It's live right now, Madison365.org. Also today, this morning, I think this story may have fallen off the front page by now, but go look for it. Sabrina Madison at the Progress Center for Black Women is giving away basically micro grants every week for the whole year for women's self-care, for Black women particularly, who are often pressured to be strong, right, and resilient, and not to care for themselves. So she's collecting donations, and depending on how many donations she gets, that'll determine how many of these grants she can give out every week. The first one was last week. She was going to give $100, but she got enough donations from community members to give away 1,000. So she's going to do this every Wednesday, basically like kind of draw names and do like random drawing every Wednesday for a little grant to specifically for self-care, which is really important and really cool idea, I think. So that story, again, is on Madison365.org. Also today, it's Science Saturday, or I'm sorry, Saturday Science. I always say that wrong. Saturday Science this weekend. This is usually a big program that happens at the Discovery Building, downtown Madison. You can take your kids. It's a free thing. All sorts of science displays and learning and experiments and stuff you can do. Obviously, it's virtual for the past year almost. And the Black History Month theme is Black innovation in STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And they've been actually spreading this out over the whole month. They've been doing interviews with innovators in STEAM and entrepreneurs, business owners, professors, students, and they've got like 6 or 8 of them up already. And we've got them all on the website, all those video interviews on the website right now at Madison365.org. And then this Saturday is a virtual program starting at 10 where you can learn a lot about Black inventors, Black innovators, Black scientists that you maybe had never heard of before. So check that out. It's at Madison365.org. Tonight, the Bucks in Milwaukee will be playing in front of fans for the first time this season. Not very many fans, 250 fans. I'm curious as to how much those tickets are going to cost. There's going to be a lot of competition for them. But, I mean, it's as I mentioned, we can, with COVID the way it is, we might be able to start thinking about these kind of things. It might work. That's a massive arena. It seats like 18,000 people. So there'll be socially distancing will not be a problem. But it's kind of exciting to give it a try. And I'm some people will think this is too soon and it's too crazy, but it feels to me like, 250 people in that big of an arena with the numbers the way they are feels like it might be reasonable. I'll say, and this you might know is Jalen Johnson. Speaking of basketball, he was a standout at Sun Prairie High School here in Wisconsin, and then somewhat controversially transferred to Nicolet High School, where he was recruited to go to Duke, and he's now a freshman at Duke, and he is going to opt out of the past couple weeks of the season and prepare for the draft. It is the draft's not till November, but he doesn't want to risk injury or whatever. So he's projected, depending on what mock draft you look at, he's projected to go like somewhere between numbers 5 and number 11 or so. Certainly in the front half of the first round of the draft. That's what kind of season he's had as a freshman at Duke. So exciting for him and exciting for Wisconsin basketball fans as well. Now I mentioned the Bucks. I thought it was reasonable. I think this is unreasonable that the State Department the state legislature, the Senate is in session today, plowing through a bunch of bills that they were supposed to get to a long time ago. And one of the bills that they have that they're working on, which I'm certain will be vetoed, is that they want to ban the state from prioritizing incarcerated people in vaccinations. We just talked yesterday about how half of the population of Wisconsin's prisons has been infected. 25 have died in state care. There are some people who are so dead set on punishing people, on making sure that people who are in state custody are miserable and unsafe and unhealthy because they I don't know, they think of these folks as less than human. But here's the thing: a vaccine doesn't. If I get vaccinated, that's not just for me, right? It's for you. Where prisons are, there is coronavirus spread because guards bring it in, pass it to the inmates, who pass it to other guards, who they get back outside. Where it doesn't matter that it feels like you're doing something nice for the prisoners, which, first of all, okay, do something nice for the prisoners. It's not that bad of it. It's not that, you don't have to just be mean to people because they made a mistake. But also, anytime there's a congregate population, it just makes sense from a public health standpoint to get rid of the virus there. Right? It's not a reward for the prisoners. It's good public health policy to vaccinate people who aren't allowed to be 6 feet apart. It just makes perfect sense. And saying that people who are in prison must be the lowest priority for vaccines because we don't mind if they die. It's not just about them. It's about the public health. It's just so short-sighted and frankly stupid. I don't understand it one bit. Which is why I'm pretty sure the governor will veto that measure. It's just ghoulish and weird. So that is what I have for you today. I appreciate you sticking with me. Those few of you that are still around, hit the share button on this, will you? Help more people discover the show and discover Madison365 and the news that we offer, which is always free and always will be free. So spread the word, spread the news. Disinformation spreads very quickly online, and good, solid, actual, factual news does not. So you can help change that. Right? When you see factual news, good journalism, share it. And support it. Subscribe to your local paper and donate to your nonprofit news outlets, which you can do at madison365.org/donate. All right. That's what I had for you today. Appreciate you sticking with me. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you tomorrow.
This is 365 Media.